Hey there guys, I'm Zach and this is Zach's Editing, and today I have for you a special sort of video. It's not a tutorial, but it's actually a tips and tricks video, and this is how to make flyers or posters look more professional and how to create them more efficiently and effectively. So I do this all in Adobe Illustrator. I don't actually have Adobe InDesign, but I mean that is a very good software to use for making flyers or posters, but I mean Illustrator is completely fine for that. Also Photoshop is very good, but I find Illustrator works best because you can blow it up to any size without making it pixelated or anything. So number one tip is to research. Before you start anything, you want to research. You want to find other designs that you may like, whether it be anything to do with that product, or it could be something that's not even anything like that product, but you just really like that design. With this researching, you want to figure out what would work well for your client, what flows with what your client does or what their business does. So for example, if they're like a building company, you'd use strong and bold lettering. So this moves on to the second one. With your client, you want to find out as much information as you can about what their business is and what they do, so you can completely use that when designing. The worst thing is when you're creating a design and you don't even know what the business does. You want to find out more information than you'll need so that you can use these aspects to fully just make the poster and flyer as good as possible. So then once you actually get into the phase of actually creating it, what you want to do is just make sure you create a new document, of course, whatever works. But when you create this new document, you want to make sure that the color mode is in CMYK. So this color mode is what is used in all printing. So it's CMYK, so that stands for cyan, magenta, yellow, and key, which is also known as black. So then you also have RGB. So pretty much if you're making a digital design, you want to make sure you're using RGB. But if you're not sure at the start, just put it in CMYK because it's a lot easier to change it from CMYK to RGB instead of from RGB to CMYK, which you can see on the screen. You can see those sections of what these colors can have. So you can see obviously changing from CMYK would be a lot easier. So now that you've got that, so say I'm creating a flyer, what you want to do, you can see these red lines in Adobe Illustrator. You can also change them in Adobe InDesign if you're doing that. But pretty much what these are is they're called bleed. So if you go to File and then Document Setup, you can see you've got bleed. So generally 3mm is pretty good, just around the whole thing. And so what bleed is when you're getting something printed, the printing machines that cut it aren't always 100% accurate. So with this extra bleed, say if this is an image, you always want to make sure the image goes to the bleed and actually on the document as well, on the page I mean. So this bleed is just an extra sort of safe boundary where it'll be sent as a PDF if you're sending it like that, so it'll be saved. And then if they're printing off, they'll still be made to cut along this black line you can see here, but if it slightly misses just by like 1mm or 2, then it'll still be fine. So you want to make sure all of your important information is in the page, of course, but if you've got images especially, or like a certain background color, you want to make sure that it extends to the bleed. So now that you've got this document sort of set up, what you want to figure out is what theme you're going to go for with the flyer or poster. All posters and flyers have themes, whether it be simple and plain or like space themed, or it's sort of a professional sort of theme. But you want to figure out some sort of theme, maybe it's a retro, but yeah. Without a theme, when you're creating the poster or flyer, it could become quite boring, or you might just not end up getting anywhere with a sort of design that you're going for. So included in the theme is also a color scheme. Theme and color scheme. So this is pretty much just figuring out colors that you like and that will go together. So you can just go in here, change the fill, and then you can just choose the different colors that you're going to use for the poster. So you want to find very contrasting colors, and also some colors that are quite harmonious and go together well. So say that I grabbed like a bright sort of green, and then what I'll just do is grab the rectangle tool and just draw a little square down here. So I can grab that nice green, and then I'll find another color that goes well with that green, so I might use like a nice blue. So in doing this as well, I'm also using like a neon sort of theme as well. So you can see that these colors aren't completely bright, and unfortunately you're not going to be able to get colors to their full vibrance with CMYK, but if you put it in RGB, then when printers are printing, there can be lots of errors with the colors, so that's a problem. So with colors, and especially with anything that's on it, you want to make sure that that when, like, say, important information is there, you want it to be completely contrasting. As you can see on the screen, this is a very bad example of something that's not very contrasting at all, and you can see that it's very hard to read those words. So you want to keep it something contrasting. So say that I had this blue, and then I might use this green. I'll just put this green over here, and I can use, say, a text, and I'll write, "Hi, I'm Zach's editing," or something. And then if I just press I, and then just click on this green, and we'll just take off that stroke. We can see, yeah, this isn't very good contrast. So say that all I'd have to do is sort of put this into like a darker sort of blue or something, and you can see it's already much easier to read. So even still, before you create the poster, what you want to do is figure out what intended audience the poster or flyer is aimed at, and try and find features that might appeal to that audience. So say kids, you might use bright colors, or sort of playful sort of things like balloons or smiles or something. So then you can use these sort of features. Maybe if you do this as part of your research, and figure out what will appeal to them the most, and be able to use that in your poster and flyer design. So now that you're sort of starting to design the poster, what you want to make sure is you don't completely go for a style and work on it really hard and then send it to your client to see if they like it. Make a plan or like a rough design for what you're thinking, and then send it to your client. It would be better to make a few simple designs to send through, so your client can see different ways to communicate and say what they like or dislike from some. Obviously, sometimes can be hard to create multiple designs. However, this is going to allow you to have your full input from your client as to what they like best, and it will make them much happier that they're having a choice of what theme they like. Because obviously, if you completely, like, you create a full poster that you're really happy with, you've already quadruple checked it and changed it multiple times, and then send it to the client, and they're like, "No, I don't like this style or this theme or something," then you're going to be very, very annoyed. So yeah, just create a rough plan and make sure that they're happy with that before you go on to fully complete it. Your client might not be extremely happy that you're like sending them a rough design, but when you're sending it to them, just remind them that you're doing this to make sure that they get the best poster or flyer that they can possibly get. So when you're making the poster, you want to make it completely eye-catching. So posters and flyers, they might be stuck up, or they might be handed out, or they might be delivered, but no one's going to look at them if they look completely boring and nothing exciting is on the poster or flyer. Nothing's going to draw them in that they want to find out more. So generally using visuals on posters or flyers will help much, much more. Also, when creating the poster or flyer, a typical rule that you should sort of follow, but when I'm saying this, you don't always follow rules, like rules are made to be broken. But generally, you want to use as minimal types of fonts or different fonts as possible, just to keep it simple. However, if you are going for a more maybe like mumbled jumbled sort of look or something, then obviously, yeah, you want to break those rules. And sometimes, even if you are going for a simple sort of structure, sometimes you might even use more than 3 fonts, and that's okay, just as long as it looks good. And on the topic of fonts and words, On flyers and posters, you want to use not many words if that's possible. Obviously, if you need to use lots of words and your client has asked you to put a big bunch of information, especially on posters, posters are okay to have quite a bit of information on them. But you want to use as little words as possible. Generally, don't create full sentences like you can order tickets at www whatever, but just something like tickets and then that website. You just want to get the message across, and you want to get it across really easily, that the viewer isn't just going to be like, oh, there's a big slab of information, I don't want to read that, I can't be bothered. But if you just have some words that isn't much, they'll be like, oh yeah, whatever, and they'll just read it, and then they'll find out all the information that they needed that they may have only gotten from that big slab of information. Another big thing when designing for clients is you never want to argue with them. You might have a brilliant idea, but they may not like it, but don't argue with them. I know that you're the designer, so you should have say, and you should have say, but they're the ones paying you, and so you should follow their instructions. I know sometimes clients can be very harsh, and they might have a really bad idea and you really just want to help them. But at the end of the day, you need to be paid, and you don't want to waste your time arguing with them, because sometimes if you argue with them, then they might just be like, no, I'm not bothered anymore, and just completely take away your job from you. And that'd be a really big problem, and you'd be very annoyed at that. Now, when you're creating these posters, before you send it to your client, you want to print it off if you're able to, and see what it looks like in the size, or if you can't get inside, just what it looks like in general. Monitors don't always give a perfect view of the poster or flyer, so printing it off can really help, and you can see just what size those texts are or visuals, and you can just completely see them all together, working together, and just really see what it would look like from a viewer's point of view. When you have this printed off, if you've got anyone near you, you can go and show them and see what they think and get their opinion. And maybe even if you just when you print it off, just if you print off a smaller one or something on like A4 or something, and then just annotate what those people liked and disliked about it, even if they're not your client, because other people are going to have some sort of impact on what you're designing, if that's possible to get their input. So as a final tip for designing a poster or flyer, I really hope you enjoyed this video. Obviously I posted it today instead of yesterday just because it was this special sort of video, so I just wanted to get that full impact. So thanks for watching. I hope you're able to get So thanks for watching. I really hope that these tips and tricks really helped you, and you'll be able to make your posters and flyers look more professional, and your clients will be happier with you. So again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.